I guess we're getting started.
Yeah.
Oh, Zoom's acting
Must
funny.
be.
Yeah.
Is it?
Mm-hmm. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Over 50 Starting Over if you're out there. November 19th, 2021. How you doing, Merle? Oh, I'm Barry Edwards.
And I'm Merle Garrison. I'm doing great, Barry.
Cool.
Happy
Friday.
Yeah.
Gloomy
Yeah.
Friday here. And we got about an inch of snow last night. Yeah.
You're kidding me. Oh, man. I've been looking at last weekend was hot as blazes here. It was like 90 degrees.
Oh.
And I was looking at your temperatures. And I'm like, it looks like there's snow over there, or at least freezing
up and
temperatures.
Up and down. I mean, it's
Really?
been nice for the most part. And then we get a cold day. And then it did that again just now. But it's that time of year, man.
Yeah, exactly. Anything, you get a mixed bag. Anything can happen over there. We finally cooled down over here. It's downright chilly over here for us.
What do you mean? What is it, like 75?
I don't know. I think it's probably in the 50s right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's kind of, I don't know. For you guys with your blood so thin after all that time, that's probably not cool. Like it's like really cold to you. But I was going to say, I think it'd be kind of refreshing.
It is actually. It feels great. I mean, I get to wear a sweater and everything. Yeah. It feels pretty good.
Look at us.
Actually.
We're kind of wearing matching sweaters.
Oh my God. I got to go change right now.
Hey,
I've actually had that before at business meetings. I have shown up and we're wearing the same thing. Oh, you got to go back home and change.
Yeah. My buddy Dan, the fireman, and I, when we used to go out on our Friday nights all the time, we'd be notorious for like showing up like looking the same. Oh, that's it's so
ridiculous.
Embarrassing.
It is embarrassing.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to tell you, I had the best conversation with your brother Scott last week. I don't know, about 6 days ago or so. It was just so nice and refreshing. He's really in a great place, and I don't know, man, he just really spread the cheer for sure.
That's awesome. Yeah, it is. He's having a great experience, new horizons that he's facing right now. He just lost all that weight. He's feeling very confident. He looks great and extremely healthy. And we met on a motorcycle ride for coffee over the weekend, which was really great. Cool. And and while we're talking, he gets down and does a whole bunch of push-ups. So
really,
yeah.
Dude, that's wild. I mean, that's really
cool.
But wild. I mean, that is a direct turnaround in lifestyle that is impressive, inspiring, and unusual.
Yeah, it is. It's a great time for something like that to happen, during this whole long, almost 2 years now with lockdowns and stuff like that, to be able to come out of that looking the way that he's looking with everything going on. It's a true success story.
Yeah, it really is. Now,
very inspirational.
Yeah, for sure. So he's doing this via a life coach, correct?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know all the details about it, but yeah, he's had a lot of success doing this. And, that whole factor of accountability is a pretty big deal when it comes to this.
It goes the same with work too. And I have for my entire adult life worked on my own, for the most part. And I really enjoy it even more now than ever when I'm working on a team, when, there's a few of us working on the common project. And I noticed this, it really illustrated the fact last week when I had a phone call with my colleague, Susan, and we're producing this podcast, Biz Chat Ohio. Yeah. And we're also tasked with marketing the thing on season 2 here. And boy, it wasn't until we got on the phone and started just pushing ideas back and forth where it was like, wow, super clear that the sum is greater than the parts. Like on our own, I mean, we both said that too, because on our own, we're coming up with kind of lame, stale ideas for the marketing of this. And then when we started talking, it was just like, wow, everything started, firing on all cylinders. And we got really great, solid, concrete ideas that we never would have came up with individually.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I mean, the whole brainstorming concept is built around that. When you have two people coming in, two or more people coming in that can really collaborate well, throwing out ideas, nothing is off the table, as far as no idea is like a dumb idea.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Just throw it out there and see what sticks. And it's amazing what happens, especially when you throw in a good coach, somebody that's been there, done that before, and can really get you motivated and get the mental engines really revving up there. It's sometimes miracles happen in those kinds of situations.
Let me ask you something. No idea is a bad idea type thing. We all know that. We've all heard it many, many times. But that's the failure of committees. How many people does it take? Typically, do you think, this is totally off the cuff and a sincere question, how many people do you think it takes before you reach that so-called committee status? And now you got people playing ego games. You always get the one person, it can never work. Always got that person. And then you always got the other person that's that's throwing out dumb ideas. No, I shouldn't say that. That actually will fall into that trap of that's a bad idea, shooting down the bad ideas. I guess
that's a good question. I don't know if there's
does it take
I don't know if it's the amount of people so much as it is the personality types that are around the table. I had an experience one time. It was a training where the guy that was leading the training I might have brought this up before. He had a seating chart for us, and in the group, that the training group was probably about 8 people, but he had done a DISC personality assessment of us before the training, and he purposely arranged us so that no two personality types were next to each other. It was a strategic type of a setting where all of our personalities very, very much played off of each other in collaboration. It was like we didn't realize it, but we were strategically set up to be a well-oiled machine for getting things done and coming up with ideas. So
you never mentioned
one aspect. That was a long time ago, but
this is wild. Now, wait a minute. So is this DISC personality thing? I remember you mentioning a couple times that on LinkedIn, you could do some kind of premium thing where you get a personality assessment of somebody.
Yeah.
Is that where he got it?
No, this was much longer, but I mean, this is before we were all addicted to the internet. It was like probably the late 90s when I was in this particular test, or training. But yeah, you're right. There's something called Crystal Knows that you can purchase as an add-on to LinkedIn that actually does a DISC assessment of people. I don't know exactly how they do it, but it's remarkably accurate and a great business tool. But this whole notion of personality types and finding the right personality matches for different groups is actually a very effective way of being able to get projects done. So that's one thing. But I think also what you're talking about is just, one bad egg ruins the whole batch, right? I mean, that can happen too. And then there's the whole group thing where nobody wants to challenge ideas. And if there's one very prominent person in the group, everybody just tends to just agree with everything that person says or thinks. That could happen. And I don't know if that's a numbers dynamic or if it's a combination of many things, but you sure do know and feel it when you're in a group like that.
Yeah, for sure. So back to this DISC assessment and all of the success that you experienced in the 90s. Why on earth is this not common practice in companies today? Like, I've never heard of it. Like, why is not every company making this part of their culture, doing this kind of dynamic?
I don't know. I think there's something about giving people personality tests that make people very apprehensive about, hey, what are you trying to get into my brain or something? I think people have a natural, they
skepticism
try to,
or something.
exactly.
It's creepy. It's a little creepy.
I don't like that. Wait, you're going to give me a personality test? Come on now. I have actually had personality tests that I've had to take in an interview process as well. So that's kind of stuff is coming up more and more, but I don't know. I agree with you that there is a science there that should be looked at a lot more closely.
Yeah. And as you said about the interviewing process, I had something I wanted to discuss with you. I was looking at earlier this morning, and it's this article on AARP. And I got to tell you, their articles are really hit and miss, more miss than not. I think that they have
Really?
a low budget writing staff. I was, but the subjects are good, like inspires thought. As with this one, how to age proof your job search. I immediately was looking at that and thinking, man, more often than not, we kind of discuss like what an advantage it is to be our age. And I've said before, I mean, we're both 55. There are different 55s. You know, you can have a young, vital 55, or you can have a old and not so healthy 55-year-old.
True.
It's all the difference in the world, but most of us should look at ourselves as being in the prime of our career, that we have a wealth of experience and knowledge amassed. And so this article kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. These tips can help you update your resume, ace your job search, age proof it. And talks about, we all know not to put your college or high school graduation dates on your CV because it immediately effectively tells your employer your age. I went through all this stuff, get ready for age-related interview questions. And then there's actually two comments at the end. And this guy says, I really hate to break your bubble, but there's not any way to protect yourself from employers finding out how old you are. Working HR over 20 years, this was one of the first things we always went to find out, the person's date of birth. Now, that to me was like, yeah, that's what I was thinking all along. First of all, these are questions I have for you, Merle. You know much more about this than I do. Don't resumes, like in larger companies, don't they first go through an AI process in the get-go, the first go around, like ZipRecruiter or something, where you put in a series of just really low level stuff to cut out the bottom. 10%.
Yeah, because usually there's not necessarily AI, although I believe that's becoming more and more popular. But certainly there's a screening out process that happens because you just get an avalanche of resumes. It's too much for any hiring manager to be able to sift through that and come up with some kind of quality at all.
Well, your eyes start going buggy. I used to hire,
and they're
people.
boring. Resumes are boring.
Yes. I do so much of that. I did that for the agency that I worked at when I was in my 20s. And oh my God, what a drag. And I still do it to this day all the time when I'm hiring somebody on Upwork to do some outsourced work. And it's like going through all of those and trying to sift through the BS. And what it becomes is trying to eliminate as many as you can to get to a top 5 or 10 and then discern between those. Your mind starts getting cloudy the more you go through them.
Yeah, it is. It's tough to be able to do that, and you owe it to the company that you work for to hire the best person. And as we've talked about in the past, when you make a bad hire, it can infect the whole group that you have. So it's a really big job to pull in the right person. You know, Barry, I'm working with a recruiter right now that is doing something a little bit unique to help with that process. And what they're wanting to do is use the magic of exactly this forum that we're using right now, where they do a brief mini interview over Zoom, and then they edit it so that potential employees can actually look and see what kind of person this is, what kind of energy do they have. And I think it's a fantastic idea to be able to narrow down your search and really get the person that you're looking for. And for people that are afraid of this type of medium, they should probably start practicing, because I see this more and more as the way to go for businesses.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Now, I also firmly believe that it depends on the kind of job that you're applying for. If you're applying to be an engineer,
that's going to be
might as well
tough
just
for those people.
Yeah, send in your written resume.
Use the resume.
Oh, that sounds so bad.
But it's funny you say that, because I've worked with a lot of engineers, and there are some really good engineers that can communicate very well.
Yeah,
and those people really stand out. I mean, being a great engineer is one thing, but being able to communicate over a medium like this just puts you head and shoulders above everybody else. And for a sales team that's using a sales engineer, it's key to their success.
It's part of being able to play well with a team. We're just talking a few minutes ago. I was like, when I had that phone call with Susan, and things just started exploding. It was great. I remember years ago, this was in the 90s. I remember reading an article about Chrysler when they went through their big failure and then their resurgence. You know what they did? They simply tore down the walls, literally, in the building, and then just started having the engineering and design teams and stuff like that communicate.
Yeah. That's interesting.
They came up with all these beautiful designs back then.
A company that I used to work for out of the Silicon Valley, it was interesting going to their headquarters, because they had everything was open spaces and then collaboration spaces. And then they were able to plug in their laptops to these huge monitors and share their work together. Very innovative company. And I think a lot of companies like that are in Silicon Valley, that the design of the offices, nobody had an office really. Everybody was out in the open. They had breakout rooms where you could go into conference rooms and everything. The one thing that I didn't like about it is that when I would come and visit, I have my voice carries. So everybody would always be like, I would always be in trouble every time. Everybody's giving me dirty looks and everything. If I lower my voice, it seems to carry even more.
Oh, wild.
So it works in this kind of setting, but in that kind of setting, I was always the bad guy every time. Oh, Merle's back.
I totally could see that. Do you want to just get into some current events?
Sure.
Yeah, I know. I kind of did.
Well, before we do, I wanted to say, hey, did you realize that there was a lunar eclipse last night?
No. What does that mean?
It was, the lunar eclipse. So it always happens on a full moon. Full moon. So it was a full moon last night. And apparently the earth passes in front of the sun. So, because that's how we see the moon. Yeah. And it causes an eclipse of the moon.
I see. So the sun's on the opposite side of the earth, so the earth is basically casting a shadow on the moon.
Exactly. Yeah. So I found out that it was going to happen. My friend Mike Erdman, I think you know Mike. He is a photographer, so he sent these things out last night to all of us, letting us know at 1 o'clock in the morning our time was the height of the eclipse. Which I didn't stay up for, but I did. I went out there at about 11 o'clock, and I could see that it was a full moon earlier, and I was partially eclipsed. If I hadn't known and didn't look up in the sky and just looked up, I would have just thought, oh, it's a half moon. But it wasn't that exciting. But it is kind of cool when it's fully eclipsed, because what you have is a blood moon at that time. That's what they call it, where it's just like all red and eerie looking. Pretty crazy stuff.
Werewolf kind of stuff.
Yeah, the last time I saw one of those was when the Boston Red Sox won the World Series after that long stretch. And I remember it was like the 9th inning. They were just about to win the game. I didn't know that there was a lunar eclipse. I went outside on the porch, looked up, and there was a red moon. And I thought, oh my God, the Red Sox are winning. There's the weird moon out there. Is the world coming to an end right now? But anyhow, it was a pretty cool event last night. I guess you didn't get to see it.
No, well, that would have been like 4 a.m. for me, dude.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
some people wake up just to
Lisa
see that and
does.
then go back to bed.
Lisa gets up around 4.
Yeah, that's not me.
I
So
know.
only to do this show, I get up pretty early, but
Yeah.
at 4 o'clock.
You know what's funny about Charlie is, I always think I compare him in my mind to Bowser because he's so similar in so many ways. My dog from 10 plus years ago. And Bowser, man, the first sign of me waking up, he would bounce out of bed and be like huffing and puffing and rubbing his side up against the side of the bed and snorting like a horse. He couldn't, and I'd be like, dude, give me a few minutes. Like, what do you got on your agenda? He just couldn't wait to get going. Charlie, oh my God, he takes forever to wake up.
Oh, is that right?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
interesting.
He does. It's really nice because he just loves to have his belly rubbed forever and just, that kind of thing. And there's times I have to pry him out of bed because it's like, dude, I got things I got to go to the gym. I got a podcast. I got things to do. And it's just really funny. And yeah, he's over there sacking out right now.
Oh, that's cool. I kind of like that. Stella was definitely, as soon as I would start to stir in the bed, she was over there like, okay, let's go. Then I get that cold nose on my elbow.
Okay. Hey, let's shift gears. This one's a little disturbing. This one really bothers me.
I saw that.
You know about this, right? This Virginia professor under fire after saying sexual attraction to children, pedophilia, isn't always immoral. And so he tries making up, as the left always does. I don't want to say the left, as everyone on the extremes always do. They make a new term, minor attracted persons or MAPS. And that's somehow supposed to make a pedophile more legit. This makes my skin crawl. Did you read about this?
Yeah, I did, and apparently this person has been suspended at the
after a big to do by parents and stuff was, in fact, by the students themselves. They were protesting. It took that for them to take action, though.
Yeah, I don't think the general public is ready for something like this at this point in time, but I think it's an ominous harbinger of what's to come. I don't think this kind of thing is off the table whatsoever. What is it? Minor attracted people. I mean, this is actually a crime to do this kind of thing, but
of course really it is. Okay, think about it for a minute. It's kind of like, okay, let's take this whole trans thing that's been so widely popular to debate about the last few years, and let's take all these sexual identity things a little further. Come on, man, you're talking minors. Minors are only minors for a few years. All right, they grow up. Now what? You're not attracted to them anymore because they grow up. Look, this is not a legitimate love kind of thing. There's nothing legitimate. It's creepy and it's unnatural in every way, and it's harmful. It's so harmful. And I mean, to put a kid through any of this kind of stuff with a manipulative adult. And so I think this should never, I'm as open-minded as anybody. And, if they're, I don't care if you're attracted to goats or something. If that's your gig, that's your gig, as long as you're not hurting anybody or the goat, I think that's fine. But when you get kids involved, no, it's never going to be right. There's no way you can ever argue this, no matter how progressive we get. There's no way this is ever going to be right.
Yeah, and I don't know about the goat thing, but I just wonder what this person's motivation is for putting this out here. Maybe I didn't go too far into the story.
I didn't either.
Just don't care.
Right.
But this is obviously when you listen to this person, you realize that, oh, this is a transgender person themselves, and are they somehow trying to, I don't know, it just seems really odd to me. The whole thing seems really odd and very uncomfortable, and I wish this wasn't the thing that was happening in our society, and especially at our schools. And I'm glad that they finally took action there.
There's no way that this is not predatory. There's no way.
Yeah, there isn't. There isn't. It's a sick thing that's happening, and what we've heard is that for every one incident that's out there that's been reported, there's something like 10 others that go unreported. These people are trapped by fear and just authority, and just they have no voice of their own or platform to get out there and say, hey, I'm in trouble, because they simply, where are they going to go? They've got to go back home or whatever and be right in that situation, and there could be repercussions. So to encourage this, or to make it sound like oh, it's just an acronym, it's a harmless acronym, I think that's a pretty dangerous thing that's out there.
Yeah, and if he likes to go by them, which is, as we've said before. Yeah, exactly. How do you change grammar for yourself? But so he says that he thinks that pedophilia shouldn't be seen as immoral because they can't help their urges. Doesn't mean it. And if he's hiding behind his transsexualism, because if you argue with him, he's going to, throw that out, I'm sure. But do you remember when Kevin Spacey got outed for, yeah. And he had a thing with young men, underage men, and he tried hiding behind his homosexualism. And he said something on Twitter like that. He got blasted by homosexuals saying you cannot conflate pedophilia with homosexualism. And so that's what I mean. Let's just clear this all up. Take your identity politics out of it. It's predatory. It's wrong, and it'll always be wrong. There's always going to be a victim. That victim's always going to be a child if you want to try to normalize this.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's funny. Well, not funny, but, Kevin Spacey's a great actor. He's been in a lot of great movies, and that effectively ended his career.
It did. So
on that same line, this is also shocking, is that the International Olympic Committee is saying that transgender women should not be forced to reduce their testosterone levels to compete in sports, and that they're saying that these transgender women can compete in the Olympics coming up. And
to be clear, that means the men that are transitioning into women can beat up on women.
That's right. And now it's up to other countries to decide whether or not they're actually going to allow their teams to compete in these types of events because of this new type of situation.
They should pull out of that. Seriously, start making a wave about that. You cannot be a feminist, and I hate to use the word feminist because I think they're pretty misguided too these days. But and I'm sorry if that just angered some people. But what I mean is we have equal rights, and I think the general feeling is equality is great, and you cannot be in a woman's corner wanting equality and thinking that this trans people competing against them in sports is a good thing.
Yeah. And the International Olympic Committee was previously allowing transgender women to compete, but they were only allowed to compete providing that their testosterone levels were below required limits 12 months before the first competition. But now they're opening up the gates, and they're saying that you don't need to use testosterone at all to decide who can compete. And the IOC called sex testing to verify an athlete's gender disrespectful and potentially harmful, labeling it as an invasive physical exam.
Okay, then we just got to go full circle here. Where this goes is that you just break down all the barriers. There's no sexual restrictions. In other words, everybody competes in the same event. Men, women, trans, whatever you want to call yourself. Because that's all they're doing right now is, okay, what are you identifying with? And it just got super muddy. So that's the only place you can go. I've said this too, because you got to get back to the locker room conversation. So what do we do about that? How many locker rooms do we have? So right now there's only 2. Well, if you take this far enough, you're going to get back to one truth, and that's going to be, well, we all just have one locker room. And
or you have, the other alternative is you've got an unlimited number of locker rooms, which is physically impossible to do. So you're right back to the one locker room thing, which these dystopian types of movies and things like that have that's a feature in that. Getting back to the George Orwell's 1984 type of discussion in a sexless society, that seems to be a common theme there. Getting back to the IOC though, with the actual testosterone testing, many critics were actually saying that even with the testosterone limits, the male body type is really built to be able to carry stronger weight and push limits further, even with those types of variations. So it's really, this is the square hole round peg thing, is that it's just never going to work out. And for those, and you brought up feminism, and for those that are looking out for women's rights, how is it that women could oblige this? Because they're constantly, we saw it happen with these track teams where these women, these state champion women were competing in events with transgender women, and every time the transgender women were winning, because they were, they have male bodies, and they couldn't win those championships anymore. So it's a downer, man. I mean,
it's a downer. Let's be blunt then. Let's be blunt. Let's take this on the other side, from the other side. So then what do we say? That transgender people can't compete in sports?
I think they should have, if they want to compete, they should have their own league to compete.
But there's not enough of them.
Well, then I don't know what to say, but
I mean, it's a difficult question.
That, everybody's got their own free choice, and if you choose to do this, it does give you an unfair advantage over everybody else. So it's just not fair for them to compete. For a man that becomes a woman that competes against women, it's not fair to other women. It just isn't.
Okay, and I agree, but like the trans person that likes the pedophilia thing that we just had up, very difficult to figure out if that's a man or a woman. Okay, there's just a lot of that going on today. It's more so. And so I guess if we're trying to find a solution to this problem with Olympic sports in general, then I think you just have to go by testosterone tests. Just take out the whole gender language completely and just go by testosterone. If you're in this bracket, you're in this bracket. If you're in this bracket, middle bracket, you're in the middle bracket. And if you're in the low end, whatever.
Yeah, I guess. I mean, it seems to me like there's never going to be a good answer for this one. If we're trying to play the politically correct game on this one, we're never really going to come to a real fair solution. I mean, that person that came on, I remember when I first heard about the report, they were saying, they were talking about the teacher as if it's a male. I guess you say this person goes by them, so I don't know. But it was pretty clear to me as soon as that person started talking that it was, a female body speaking to me that had taken testosterone and therefore had some kind of facial hair. And, women have smaller shoulders and men have broader shoulders. There's just body types are never there's certain characteristics of body types that it doesn't matter how much testosterone or estrogen is there. It's just not going to change.
No good way out of this one.
I don't think there is any good way out of this one, man. I mean,
let me ask you something.
It's just the truth is the truth.
Change of gears, totally. But what's going on? Because I've gotten bored with it, but the Rittenhouse.
Oh my
thing.
gosh! Well,
Did they
first
push
off,
it off through the weekend because they're afraid of
they're going to be there
people to calm
today,
down?
as a matter of fact.
Oh.
But it's oh my gosh, Barry, I've been following this all week. I actually did get to see the closing arguments on the prosecution and the defense on Monday, and it's that old proverb that says something like, everything that a person says sounds right until you hear the other person on the other side. And when I heard the prosecution's case, I thought, I don't know if I'm, because, Rittenhouse killed 2 people, shot 3 people. I thought, the 2 people at the end that he shot, I could see how that would be self-defense. But even as the prosecution was going, I really didn't watch the whole trial. But the first one, the Rosenbaum one, it was a little, after I first heard the prosecution, I thought, I don't know if that's self-defense or not. Then when the defense got up and showed the rest of the story, it was cut and dry to me, and it was all video evidence. The prosecution showed this little window of video evidence, and then the defense showed the rest of the video evidence. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is absolutely clearly, in my mind, self-defense. And then I could see how a lot of the things that the prosecution was doing was really deceptive and kind of slimy to begin with. And when I started to think about, this is the federal government doing this, and really they're the ones that are making this case, and this is, it seems like they're trying to railroad this kid into this whole thing. So we saw a lot of.
Let me ask you though, Merle, what would be the end game of that? Why would they want to do that? Why would they want to cause this turmoil? Because how society is like on the edge of their seats with this.
First off, we look at the beginning of this whole thing, and what was happening at the time of Kenosha, leading up to Kenosha, was that several of our cities had been burning because of riots that had happened, and the news media was calling it these are protesters, these are peaceful protesters that are happening, and they have their First Amendment rights, as they're burning and looting and beating the living hell out of other people. Meanwhile, you had the Democrat Party seeming to condone this whole thing with their lead candidate, Joe Biden. And at the same time, you had the Republicans doing absolutely nothing to stop it. So it seemed like they were all on the same page in a certain way. And so then you had they had this whole thing happen in Kenosha. Black Lives Matter is out there. A Black person had just been shot, followed up by the George Floyd thing. And so it seems like this whole push. And meanwhile, candidate Joe Biden calls Rittenhouse a white supremacist. Right?
That was the dumbest thing a president has ever done.
So you have that happening. And then you also have this, Joe Biden gets elected, and within just shortly before the inauguration, you've got the January 6th thing, where this is an insurrection, an armed insurrection, which, by the way, apparently there were no guns that were brought into this so-called insurrection. And so you've got this politicized situation where it's like the right is bad and the left is good, and Democrats good, Republicans bad, Trump supporters bad, Biden supporters good, kind of thing. So but then you've also got this push to eliminate the rights that we have under the Bill of Rights. The First and the Second Amendment are under severe attack right now. And inside of the prosecution's their closing arguments, one of the things that the prosecutor said was that if you bring a gun, then your right to self-defense is eliminated. And under the Second Amendment, that's absolutely a lie.
Mm-hmm.
And so anybody that has a gun and uses it to protect themselves is, according to him, is they lose their right to self-defense. And so, one of the things that the prosecutor also said was, after Rosenbaum was shot, he was the first one that was shot, that Rittenhouse should have at that point surrendered his weapon, laid it down on the ground, and then put his hands up and surrendered himself to the people there, whom he also called a bunch of heroes. Well, when you look at the video of this whole thing, they would have torn him limb from limb. They would have murdered him right there. That's what they were saying, actually. And when you think about this whole thing, it seems like the prosecution is trying to say that, hey, you have absolutely no right to self-defense. You have no right to the Second Amendment. And if you're on this side, you're always right. If you're on that side, you're always wrong. And you're seeing this on a daily basis right now, that there seems to be a big push, not just from our leaders in government, but on social media, in the news, that one side seems to, no matter what they say, they're always right, and another side, no matter what they say, they're always wrong. And I really believe that this case is sort of the testing ground for all of this, and that there's a lot of stuff that's going on right now in this whole thing too. We've got the jurors are being intimidated. We just had somebody, the bus that the jury was in was being followed by someone from MSNBC.
Right.
And they trying to take
barred from the
pictures of these
courtroom.
people. Yeah, taking pictures of the jury is purely intimidation. And I feel the jury wasn't sequestered. That's another thing that's going on here, is that, they went home last night and they're back in it today. When you go home, what do you think is going to happen? These people are going to, death threats are happening. Wow. There is a major dark push to interfere with this trial and put this kid in jail for life. And I think what's going to happen here is you're going to have a hung jury, and they're going to have to retry this whole thing.
Yeah, there's so many ways that this is intertwined with everything going on. Look at, it's been in the news so much for the last few weeks, but Biden and Harris both, their poll ratings are in the toilet. People absolutely, totally dislike this administration. And okay, how is this not inevitable? When, everything got so crazy with Black Lives Matter, that preyed on white guilt. That's super easy to do. And then people started using, oh my God, I don't want to be called a racist, so I better call other people racist first. The whole virtue signaling thing, which leads to burning down cities, which is still going on to this day. As you said, that's a one-sided political thing as well. And then when the right does the march on the Capitol, and it's called an insurrection at that point, which wait, and I'm not defending that. I am embarrassed by Trump and the crazy ass followers that did that. There's nothing right about it. But what I'm saying is that things got so unhinged with the left and the constant burning down of the cities and all this stuff, and the crap that's going on in all of the democratically led cities right now. And now it's a big surprise that, and then they go and appoint, I think Nancy Pelosi's behind this. This is just me talking, but do you really think Biden chose Harris as his running mate? I think he's been led by committee the whole way. And that committee is basically Nancy Pelosi, in my opinion. And so and again, just my opinion, in her infinite wisdom, playing the gender and race card with Kamala Harris was the smart way to go, even though it was clear that the American public hated her. You know, she didn't even make it into the primary, the Democratic primaries. Or do you say she made it through the first stage? How do you say that? Because she didn't. She lasted one round. You know.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy when we start to take a look at this whole the racial issues. I mean, here Rittenhouse was called a white supremacist, yet the people that he shot were all white. You know,
yes.
And not only that, this Rosenbaum guy was on tape using the N-word in a terrible, terrible way during that night. But yet the guy that is defending himself against this person is called the white supremacist. So it's so upside down. And on top of that, I actually have a video that I want to show because of the way this has been portrayed in the media, especially MSNBC. It's appalling. Joy Reid has been on top of this, but I just play a little bit of what she had to say.
Don't forget to hit the sound.
Yeah, but this is her. Tucker Carlson was playing this out the other day, but I was shocked to see this whole thing. Let me just play.
This is sickening.
Okay, let me turn on the sound.
She's such a racist.
Can you hear this?
Yeah, just a bit though.
The Brett Kavanaugh hearings, in which Brett Kavanaugh, who had been accused by a high school friend,
there you go,
committing sexual abuse of her, cried his way through the hearings to make him a permanent member and Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. And his tears turned out to be more powerful than the tears of Christine Blasey Ford, which were the tears of an alleged victim. But in America, there's a thing about both white vigilantism and white tears, particularly male white tears.
God, man. She just checks off all the boxes, racist, sexist, everything. But if you're racist against white people and you're sexist against men, it's okay. You could do this on mainstream media. That's disgusting. And in fact, every time she's in the news, it's for something like that.
It seems to me that MSNBC, that's their whole agenda. It seems to be remember Minister Farrakhan and all the disgusting hate-ridden speeches that he made about white people. This seems to be the Minister Farrakhan channel. I mean, maybe that's what I can't even stomach what they're saying. And this is Joy Reid is just one of the talking heads on that channel that are saying these things. I mean, there's a whole chorus of people, mostly Black people, that are saying these types of hate-filled things. And you know, that's propaganda. And that kind of propaganda gets people hurt.
But here's the thing.
People.
Here's what I was getting at, from the Rittenhouse thing to the unpopularity of Harris and Biden, all of this, people are sick of it. People are getting sick of it. There's going to be enough people to buy in all this crap, to riot in Kenosha for sure, enough. But the American public's getting fed up. Hence the unpopularity of the Harris-Biden administration now. And notice what's going on with the election of Republicans now over Democrats. It's just starting to take place. That's going to more and more. There's already talk about what are they going to do in the next coming presidential election. You go put Harris up there? No way. Now they're trying to do damage control with their reputation right now, but they're already talking about trying to squeeze Pete Buttigieg in there. He's not that popular in it of himself. No. So they're in a world of hurt. That's what I'm saying. This party, really because of their racist, sexist crap that they're always pushing to divide, it's not working anymore. It's turning in on themselves.
Yeah, I see that too. And, you know, just even when CNN comes out and brings out a story with headlines: exasperation and dysfunction inside Kamala Harris's frustrating start as vice president. When CNN does a story like that, you know they're in big trouble.
That's what I thought. I got that link in my notes too, that same one. I was thinking the same thing.
It's a big deal. And then when you see how they're scrambling to overcome that immediately, you've got Jen Psaki with a tweet that comes out talking about the VP is not only a vital partner to POTUS, but a bold leader who has taken on key important challenges facing the country, from voting rights to addressing root causes of migration and to expanding broadband. First off, expanding broadband, I don't know anything about that. Because you just threw that in there.
Yeah.
But I mean, here's something to think about, though. I'm not a fan, of course, of Harris whatsoever, but think about the things that Biden has thrown her into.
The border
crisis. What was she going to do about that? I mean, she doesn't have any power to do anything. She's not going to change the policy that Joe Biden put out there.
Right.
So all she could do is go out there and look silly, really.
Right.
Then last week, she's in Paris, talking to the leaders in Paris. Well, what did they do? France just pulled their ambassador out of the United States over this whole thing of this nuclear submarine deal that was going on, where they got sideswiped by the Biden administration, and they're totally ripped off right there. What was she going to do going over there to try to mend fences? All she could think of was a fake French accent, which didn't go over very well at all.
I mean, see that.
Everything that they throw her into is a sinking ship already. It's a Titanic that's sinking, and it brings me back to when Joe Biden was the vice president. That's exactly what Obama was doing with Joe Biden. Hey, go take care of the Ukraine and stay there for the next 3.5 years.
Which is where he should be right now.
Yeah, exactly. He should be the president of Ukraine. I mean, everything that they did for the Ukraine over there it's a totally corrupt government, and we're seeing this whole thing happening here now. And it's when you really look at all the signs leading up to the election, how are we not surprised that these things are happening?
I know, but okay, so now I guess I could see a world where everything goes thrown into the Republicans' corner. Is that going to be any better?
I know.
I know.
I mean, I would not hold my breath. And here's why. I mean, I take a look at, for instance, this whole thing that's happening with this bill that just passed, the infrastructure bill. And we're finding out the things that are inside of that infrastructure bill that just passed. Many Republicans jumped on. They said it was bipartisan. I mean, if it weren't for those Republicans jumping onto that bill, it never would have passed.
Big tax cuts for the wealthy. That is once again what happened. They stripped out all the stuff that they ran on, that they said that everybody says they're going to do for their constituents. Those one by one got cherry picked out, and special interest and tax cuts for the rich stay in. Disgusting.
And now we have this other bill, the real Build Back Better bill that's sitting there right now in front of the House. They're going to vote on this at some point today. I've got some information on this one. The Wall Street Journal is reporting on this. You know, they came back and whittled this down to something like $1.7 trillion. Like, that's a bargain. You know, it's only 1.7 trillion, Barry. No problem. And it's going to cost us zero, is what they keep telling us.
And I want to correct myself. I think the tax cuts for the rich is in the Build Back Better bill. I think I got that wrong. I'm not the one that. I know just enough to be dangerous.
It's crazy what was in that first bill. I mean, at a time when inflation is through the roof, What happens with that first bill, the $1.2 trillion bill, is that the Federal Reserve is printing money. They're a money printing machine in order to cover the costs for this, which, by the way, if you have a savings account, if you have a 401k, what that does is it diminishes the value of what you've worked so hard to save up. And so
the resulting inflation is killing me, man.
It is unbelievable. So the Wall Street Journal has come in because several of the Democrats actually in the House asked for the Congressional Budget Office to score this bill, this $1.7 trillion bill that's up for a vote here today. And they came back and they said, no, indeed, this isn't going to cost zero. In fact, this is going to raise our deficit, an estimate of $367 billion. But the Wall Street Journal is coming back and saying that's actually not the truth. This is what they say. The CBO gnomes aren't lying about a 10-year deficit estimate of $367 billion. They're obliged to score the bill under the Democrats. Under the rules, the Democrats have rigged with multiple tricks that disguise the real cost by trillions of dollars. They phased out the biggest programs in the bill while paying for them with 10-year tax increases, and they phase in other programs and offload costs to the states. The Penn-Wharton budget model estimates a House bill would cost nearly $4.6 trillion over 10 years if temporary provisions are made permanent, and most will be. So, I mean, this is going to be a ginormous amount of money. This is the one of, if not the biggest tax bill, budget bill that's going through, and they were able to push this through on a resolution, which is we won't go into the technicalities of that, but what it means is if this passes the House today and goes to the Senate, then it only takes a majority vote to pass this through, and there's no chance of a filibuster on this. So it makes it very easy for them to get it through. The one wild card on this is Joe Manchin. And Joe Manchin, just one Democrat not voting for this puts the kibosh on the whole thing. In Joe Manchin's state of West Virginia, the polling for Joe Manchin is 60%, and for Joe Biden is 32%. And that's a big deal. And 74% of the voters in West Virginia want Manchin to oppose the Build Back Better plan. So it's going to be very interesting to see how this goes. But what I found is that you can't count these, what is it? You can't count your chickens before they hatch. Whatever the whole thing is. You just can't fool me. This is a big deal, and who knows if Joe Manchin gets paid off or whatever. He seems to be a guy that's really fighting for West Virginia, because this will destroy West Virginia if he goes along with this whole thing.
Okay. We're starting to run out of time here. I want to get to something else completely different. Did you hear Alex Jones found guilty on all 4 Sandy Hook defamation cases? Did you hear about that?
No, I did not hear about that.
Yeah. So InfoWars conspiracy theorist Alex Jones is liable for damages after calling the massacre a hoax and the victims crisis actors. I got a link for that, of course. Judge in the case ruled that Jones failed to produce documents he had been ordered to hand over by the court, including his financial records. He was guilty by default, they say. The families of 10 victims in a 2012 mass shooting at a Newton, Connecticut elementary school sued the far-right media personality for defamation in 2019 after he suggested on his program that the assault, which left 26 people dead, including 20 children, was a hoax staged by crisis actors in order to drum up opposition to the Second Amendment. So a couple last things here. Jones claimed on his InfoWars show the massacre was a hoax involving crisis actors meant to tighten gun control laws. Now, see, this is what gets me. is somebody as far right as Alex Jones. There's like, a lot of times when his conspiracy theories are proven right. And then it's like a cautionary tale. But when he goes so far, like this one just bothers me. 20 children were killed in this. And he caused it. I'm thinking about the families here. And he's blowing it off as if it's a hoax and something staged by crisis actors. That's like when it just sounds crazy in a sick way. It bothers me.
It bothers me too, and really the whole thing stole Alex Jones's credibility for me immediately. I mean, even back then, because it was like this is too crazy. And when I hear him, I just think of Carney's. You know what I mean? Like
it always comes back to Carney's for you.
Yeah. It's like
I
understand this language.
You got an education.
I hear the Carney nuances, and it was just like, okay, grab your wallet, get the heck out of here.
Yeah, so that's unfortunate because
what the thing is with Alex Jones is there are things that I believe in, and then he'll show up. It's sort of like, and it's like, oh man. Screw up everything, man. It's almost like on the other side when Al Sharpton shows up. It's like, oh, not Al Sharpton. Man.
That's a good point. That's a good analogy. Hey, I got another one that I bet you didn't hear about, but you'll find interesting. Did you hear about this Chinese tennis champion disappears?
This is really crazy stuff, man.
Yeah, after alleging that a politician, 75 years old, sexually assaulted her. The Women's Tennis Association demands China investigate claims by the doubles champion Peng Shuai. I guess you say your name. So Peng, 35, alleged she was forced into having sex with this politician, Zhang Goli, 40 years her senior. He sexually assaulted her in a bedroom at his house while his wife was there. Until 2018, Zhang, 75, served as the Chinese government's senior vice premier. So very powerful guy.
This is a very powerful person, right? And then she's disappeared now, and this is a big deal. Let's see, the whole World Tennis Association. I mean, these guys are outraged. We've got very famous people that are logging in and saying, hey, we better get some answers on this whole thing. This is a very prominent person that's disappeared, and apparently the Chinese actually had to show proof that everything's okay, showed an email that was supposedly from this tennis player saying that everything was all right. Right.
Oh,
exactly.
My God. China has no accountability. I mean, my God, the whole coronavirus thing, for the love of God,
I know. They will go to any limits to show that somehow they're right, and the deception that comes from China is over the top. But the Women's Tennis Association is being very strong about this, and actually the leader of the Women's Tennis Association is saying, should we find that we are what we are asking for cannot happen or will not happen, that is to show that she is fine, and that to actually show her we are prepared to no longer do business within the region and move forward. It's pretty strong talk coming from Simon is the last name. I don't have the first name in front of me. That is in charge of the Women's Tennis Association. Let's see, it's the chief executive, Steve Simon. And we've got people like Serena Williams, and I'm devastated and shocked to hear about the news of my peer. And I hope she's safe and found as soon as possible. This must be investigated, and we must not stay silent. What a contrast to the NBA. These people are. These are women that are standing up strong against China, where a whole league of big, strong men capitulate to China very, very quickly.
That's a good point, man. But what do you think? Do you think she's ever going to turn up?
Gosh, the thing about the Chinese is that they may actually cause her to show up. Here's an article that I have just to well, maybe I don't have it. Nope, I don't. But there's so many times what happens in with the Chinese is when pressure happens, they'll turn these people up. But yeah. What normally happens is they've got them and they put them into a prison, and then they threaten their families and say, if you don't say this and that, then we're gonna do something terrible to your family, and then they end up coming on there. So, if you're in China, you just don't have any kind of real rights if you cross the Chinese Communist Party.
Man, that's
what we're talking about here.
Okay, well, God, on that note, let's lighten this up. That kind of gets to me.
It's oppressive. It really is.
Very oppressive. So
that's what we're looking at.
I just have a quick one here. So if you got something, that's fine too. But I got some cuteness overload for you. And it is very quick. These dogs met while on a walk, and it turns out they're from the same litter. And see that?
No, hold on. Oh my gosh, look at that. That is the cutest thing. Now the world should take a picture of that. This is like the black and white cookie.
And by the way, they're hugging. They're hugging. They're on their hind legs hugging. And it's for people that are not watching. So this is real short, so I'll read it. Here's an adorable story to brighten your day. Libby Pincher from the UK posted the photos her father had sent her of two dogs reuniting on a walk. Her father said that the two dogs were walking toward each other, and instead of playing, they just kept hugging. It turns out the dogs are from the same litter. And his tweet. So Dave was out walking his dog, and there was a couple walking towards him with a white version of his own dog. Turns out they are brother and sister from the same litter, but instead of playing, they like they do with other dogs. Look at this. And here's yet another picture, the second picture of them hugging. It is absolutely adorable. So they're like, what, poodle kind of dogs? I'm terrible with breeds.
Yeah, those are poodles.
Yeah. And so cuteness overload for sure.
That's really awesome. I have a picture here to show. This one right here.
Oh, yum.
Reese's introduces pie-sized peanut butter cup with Thanksgiving coming up next week.
Oh,
that is an amazing idea, I think.
I can't believe it.
Haven't they thought about this earlier?
That's what I was just going to say.
This is like this. Okay, so unfortunately, though, they only made 3,000 of these, and they're already sold out.
$45 a piece, no less. Oh my God!
I mean,
now that was always my favorite candy growing up.
It's one of mine too, and so maybe you can get one for Christmas. And this could be a good Christmas gift as well. Just send a Reese's pie. Make sure you don't. If you wrap it up, make sure you don't keep it in a hot room, because that's going to be a mess.
Oh yeah.
But this is a pretty cool idea, I think.
That's a great idea. I can't believe they haven't done that for decades.
I know, right? It's wonder. My mouth kind of watered looking at that thing.
Hey, everybody, go to over50startingover.com so you can get our notes and our links and all this right to your email box as it happens. And or what you really should do, pull up your podcast app on your phone, type in Over 50 Starting Over, and subscribe to us there. By the way, good news, folks. We a couple of weeks ago just got accepted. Our video is accepted by Spotify. And so you can watch the video. If you prefer watching the video, you could do that on Spotify rather than simply YouTube. And because we do not get good favor with the algorithm searches in YouTube. They don't like us very much. So please share with a family or friend that you think might enjoy the show. All right, Merle, we'll go into the after show. If you guys care to join us once again, that link will be in your show notes. All right, see you next week.